Oh, well, hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. I have a returning guest with us, and I am so excited. Now, she was on many moons ago, and all sorts of stuff has been happening for her. And so we wanted to bring her back on and have her fill us in as to what's going on, because she's got some pretty big dreams and some goals and stuff that's starting to achieve for her. So we want to get all of that. We want to hear it all. But first of all, let me tell you a little bit about her. So there are stories that inspire, and then there's some stories that will stop you in your tracks, and they're going to make you rethink everything you thought you understood about survival. Well, today's conversation is one of those. My guest, Courage House Incorporated founder Kay Bohemier, didn't just face trauma. She lived it through what many wouldn't survive: domestic violence, extreme hardship, even homelessness. But here's the part that hits the hardest. Even after surviving all of that, she found herself with nowhere safe to go. So, this isn't just a story about survival, this is a story about purpose forged in the fire. So let's get into it. Kay, thank you so much for doing this with me again. I
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me. I appreciate
Uh,
you having me. Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, so Kay, take us back. What was the moment you realized that you had survived everything, but you still didn't have anywhere to go? So tell us a little bit about what was happening in your life.
Well, when I escaped basically bring it right back to the night I escaped, I stole his car. I was in a different country, so that didn't help. And I found myself stranded out in the United States during COVID lockdown in a stolen vehicle, and I was in big trouble because I didn't know what I was going to do. Eventually, I did get into a shelter, domestic violence shelter. But, one of the reasons I want to talk today is because the shelter is good for 90 days. So they call it the 90-day cliff, but that's what I call it. Once your 90 days is up, you've got to transition out. And normally you get an advocate and they work on a transition plan with you. And my transition plan was to transition back into the stolen car and live homeless. And that's what happened. I lived homeless for another year in a tent in the bush.
Wow.
Yeah.
That just seems crazy that that would happen.
Yeah. It's, I can't even describe it in words how horrible it was. That I could not get any help. Down in the United States, you don't have long-term housing. There are a couple programs, but you do have to have a social security number. Like basically you need to be an American citizen to tap into those resources. They have nothing for somebody like me.
Right.
And they showed me that. The system failed big time. They showed me that by allowing me to live homeless for over a year.
Wow.
And yeah, so, um escaping didn't save me.
Hmm.
That's how I still ended up with nowhere to go. Housing could have saved me.
Yes. Yes. Well, housing is so important no matter what your situation is in life. We
Mhm.
all we all need to have a safe place to go and call our own and have a home.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
shelters, the emergency shelters are incredible. Like they save lives. Like there's no, absolutely. I mean, they did for me for those 90 days, but they're temporary, right? So, after that,
Hmm.
you're on your own trying to figure out
Wow.
where you're going to sleep and how you're going to rebuild while you're still dealing with trauma. And in my situation, still hiding from somebody who kept getting bonds and was stalking me.
Yeah.
So it was horrible. And I realize if it's happening to me, that's not rare. It has to be happening to, it's not just my story. There are so many survivors who have done everything right and still fall through the cracks.
Yeah. Well, what did it feel like
So,
emotionally? Was it like shock, anger, disbelief, or all of it at once? Was it overwhelming?
yeah, it was like I'll be honest, it's at one point I almost wanted to take my life. I'm going to be honest with you. It got to a point
Mm,
where it got pretty dark. those were dark days for me. Sorry, I'm going to cry. It was hard.
Wow. Wow. Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, going through everything you went through, then you finally break it and get away, you escape, and then you get
yeah.
90 days worth of housing, but then at the end of that 90 days, it's like, well, sorry, see ya.
No, that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens. So it's like, what do you do? I landed up, what I had to do was I was hanging on by a thread, and I mean a thread that was fraying. I mean, I could see it was
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
I landed up taking the stolen car and begged and begged and begged for help. I could not get help. I landed up hightailing it back to Canada for a little period of time, and I wasn't supposed to leave. That brought up a whole bunch of immigration issues. I needed to
Right.
be here for court. There were serious felony charges on the table. I needed to be here to testify. I knew if I went back to Canada, they may not let me back. I accrued unlawful presence. There was just a lot of issues.
Wow.
But it was that or my life.
Yes. Oh, of
And so
course.
I chose to live, and I chose to, go back to Canada. And I stayed up there, long enough to get enough money so I could actually come back down here and take care of what I needed to. And hopefully they let me cross, which thank God they did. They
Yeah.
did end up letting me come back. But if I hadn't have done that, I'm not sure we'd be having this conversation today, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Well, people
Yeah.
often think leaving is the hardest part. But what do they not understand about what comes after?
Um, I think that people don't understand, like, they think that, you just walk away and just start fresh, right? But we're carrying everything with us, the trauma, the labels, the judgment, and trying to prove that we deserve another chance. Like, people think that it's just so easy, and it's not.
Hmm.
It's not easy. There's so much, there's financial abuse, there's all kinds of things that survivors are going through when they escape. So a lot of them, they don't have bank accounts, they don't have jobs, and then once the abuser finds out that they've left, then they lock down bank accounts and they starve them financially. And because there's no housing available to correct that abuse that they're still going through, that leads to more issues of homelessness and, where am I going to
Yeah.
eat tonight? All of these things, right?
So do you think it's so if you had little kids or kids, do you think that there would have been more services available to you? Is this because do you think I mean, I understand that you know there's still whether you've got kids or not, it's still there's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go after 90 days. And I'll be honest with you, 90 days kind of stops the bleeding. I mean, you're still kind of in shock, like I was, like so
Right.
many others probably are. I mean, there's single moms with 5 kids in tow. They're dealing with these kids. They're dealing with black eyes, broken leg, this, that, whatever. No job. How am I going to feed my kids? I'm going to be gone in 90 days. Where am I going to go? You know where they go? They go back to their abuser. They have nowhere to
Mm,
go,
right. My next
and
yeah.
yeah.
My next question was going to be what's the biggest misconception about domestic violence survivors that needs to be shattered?
That I think that people just believe that once you leave, it just corrects everything. And that's the biggest misconception of all. The problems just begin.
So, yeah, if there's not some sort of a support system for people, especially women who come out of those abusive situations certainly don't have the highest self-esteem and everything
Right.
else that goes along with it. And then they might have, the challenge of children as well on them.
And
And
daycare, and daycare
yes,
is not cheap. I mean, where are they going to get the money for that? Like, there's just so many variables that play a role in that. Once you leave,
yeah,
you give up. You're giving up your entire life,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
going out to the abyss, like, basically, into an
yeah.
emergency shelter, and then you transition onto the street.
So can you share what homelessness looks like specifically for women leaving abusive relationships or abusive situations?
I mean, I can tell you from my experience,
Yeah.
in my situation, I started off living in the stolen car, and then that got dangerous because he was looking for the car. So I had to hide the car. Then I got a tent, and I found a place in the bush and I got a bucket and I used the bucket to use the bathroom. And I used the 7-Eleven to brush my teeth and wash up and stuff. And I literally didn't even know how I was going to eat. And so what I did was, because I couldn't work, I didn't have a work permit. And so what I did was I used the stolen car and I used to pick up random people for money, drive them to their destination. So I'd make $5 or $10 and then I would be able to get like the 2 for $5 Whopper deal. That's how I survived for a year.
You were the first Uber driver.
I called it hood Uber.
With Uber.
I
Aw.
called it hood Uber. Like it was dangerous. Like it,
Of course.
that's not that's just not okay. Like it's not okay to leave in a domestic violence situation, you go into a shelter and then you transition into a stolen car and then to a tent. That is not success.
No, 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 no. And
That's a system failure. That's a system failure. That is a system failure.
yeah,
And if I went through it, I can only imagine how many others are.
yeah, for sure. So, what gaps in the system did you personally experience that made you realize something had to change?
Okay, well, down in the US, they're very big on you have to be a Canadian or American citizen to get any kind of help.
Mm,
And so that's the number one issue that I ran into. Well, you're not an American citizen. You don't have a social security number. We're not going to give you food. You can't go on food stamps. Oh, you can't come into this program. You don't have a social security number. So that's
yeah,
what I ran into. And that's how Courage House was born. It was born actually in my tent while I was homeless. And I thought to myself, this is crazy. I'm living like an animal. Like my abuser is getting clothed and fed. Yeah, he may be in jail, but he still has shelter. I
yeah.
had nothing. I had nothing, and nobody cared.
Can you
So that's, yeah.
excuse me? Can you tell us a little bit about, because people may be wondering if they don't know much about your story, is,
Mhm.
what were you doing in the US and without proper paperwork and that kind of stuff? Do you want to just tell like it's a little bit of your story? Because you basically fell in love with someone from the US.
Yeah, I fell in love with somebody from the US and I came down here for 6 months. Canadians are allowed to come down for 6 months.
Hmm.
During that 6 months, I landed up getting married and it wasn't planned. It happened and we got married. And so everything was on the up and up. I applied for my immigration like, one would.
Yes.
But when everything hit the fan, that's when everything changed. I mean, yes, I could have come back to Canada. That would have been the easiest thing to do is just come back and not have to deal with anything. But that would have meant I was allowing him to get away with what happened, and I
Right.
couldn't live with that either. So it was a Sophie's choice. It was stay in the U.S., be homeless, but you're going to get justice, and he's going to go to prison, or go back to Canada and just wipe your hands of the whole thing. And I chose the latter. I chose the harder road,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely hard. I mean, I'm still on that journey. I'm still in immigration chaos right now.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
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 So, and I'll be honest, like for jobs, like I don't know, there's a stigma down here too that I'm finding with my stories, online. It was covered on the news. There's lots of news stories online about what happened to me, and employers are Googling my name, and I'm being turned down jobs because of it.
Yes.
That actually happened yesterday. I was told, no, that's a problem for us. And I said, well, I don't know how that's a problem. He's in prison. I was a victim of violence, like, and they said, well, he could come here and kill us, so we're not interested.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
just
so that's another thing that people like me are experiencing. It can't just be happening to me.
no, no, of course not. And he was quite or is quite violent. And thank goodness he is in prison because he was in prison for, well, he was in prison for issues that didn't even relate to what he ended up doing to you. But I know from your
Yeah.
story, it was horrendously horrible what you
Yeah.
had
I
gone
mean,
through.
he's a convicted murderer. Like
Hmm.
he's a murderer, and he almost took my life. Like it
Yeah.
came very close to me not having, me not living,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, and while I was suffering down here, you're exactly right. What happened was he went and committed 4 armed robberies,
Yeah.
and the FBI got involved, and that kind of, they're at a higher level than a state.
Yes.
So the district attorney here at the state level said, "Hey, your charges are being stayed right now. FBI are involved. There's a big manhunt to find him and all this and whatever." And that, they finally found him, and he pled guilty to federal charges. He's in federal prison now, and they dropped all my charges, so I suffered for nothing.
Wow. And why did they drop your
Mhm.
charges? Was it because he was already convicted on more
Because he
serious
had
charge?
10 years. They didn't want to wait 10 years. That's what they told me.
Ah, I
It was
see.
too long of a period of time.
Mm, yeah.
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 So,
Wow.
you know,
Wow. Yeah.
unfortunately, like the DA said to me, you should be happy he's locked away. I'm like, yeah, not for the right reasons, but anyways, okay, whatever. I mean, I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? You knew how I was living homeless for a year.
Yeah. Waiting to get your
Yeah.
justice. Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow. Well,
So
you've
that was all.
well, you've said
Hmm.
it that you felt like you had no choice but to build Courage House. So tell me more about that
Yeah.
feeling. What is that? What's that all about? Because this is something that's sort of come out of your story and out of a great desire to help other women in these situations.
Yeah, like not just women, all survivors of domestic violence. Like that's what my shelter's going to be. It's got, like, I envision, okay, so sorry, my head's just,
That's that's
I,
okay.
uh, I incorporated a nonprofit, so I've got it out there. It's not just in my head. I've actually
Yes.
legally incorporated it now and formed my board. And so Courage House it's going to be a long-term transitional housing facility, not for 60 or 90 days. It's for two
Yes.
years. It's
Yes.
going to be a 2-year program so that survivors have real time to heal, find work, stabilize, and then move forward
Yeah.
and not be homeless and not have to go back to the abuse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I want a 24-hour daycare, because single moms or single dads, that interferes with work. So,
Yes.
we're going to have a daycare. I think that mental health counseling is super important to deal with trauma. And so that will be on site. And then classes for financial classes and stuff like that will also be offering that. So that's the long-term goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really
Well,
excited. So,
I was
mhm,
going to ask you what Courage House was going to offer that traditional shelters or programs don't, but I think you've covered that. And I agree with you. I think, like, thank goodness
mhm,
for myself. I've not been in that situation, but I certainly excuse me.
mhm.
I certainly know many women who have, and they need more than just 90 days. 90 days, you're just starting to breathe again.
Exactly. That's exactly why I'm gonna make it happen. It's gonna be, it's a long journey. But it's doable, and I'm the right person for the job. So,
Yes, you are. And you've been through worse and you've
oh,
made it.
absolutely.
And you've made it. And so, yeah, you've got enough tenacity to get it done for sure. So what does
Mhm.
rebuilding a life actually look for or look like for women once they've escaped and what does that look like?
Well, for me, I can say for
Yeah.
me, it was I landed up not being able to work actually once everything kind of settled down a little bit because my night terrors were really bad. And I was driving truck at the time for a little bit, a semi truck.
Hmm.
And I would wake up like outside my semi truck in the rest area, like screaming. And I'd wake up, I'm like, where am I? Like, what's going on? Like, I was crazy,
Mm,
thinking I'm going to be killed, right? So my doctor landed up saying, like, you can't work. So I've been off for the past year and a half now. And I have spent 9 months, 3 times a week in intense outpatient counseling. I actually did 30 days of inpatient treatment as well since we last talked. I had to do that. So there was a lot of counseling, a lot of trauma to
Mhm.
work through. And so I'm just finally now feeling like, okay, like I can do this now, So I've
Yeah,
worked through what I had to, but the trauma it's very hard on a survivor when they get out. It's
yeah,
hard to function, PTSD, like those are debilitating things that they go through.
yes, yeah, yeah.
So,
So why is long-term housing such a critical piece of the healing?
well, I got some stats here. It says, I looked it up, well, in the US, anyways,
Yeah.
38% of domestic violence survivors end up homeless at some point, and more than half of homeless women say abuse is the reason they lost their housing.
Wow.
And on any given day, thousands of women are turned away from shelters because there's simply no space.
Now you had a stat for
So
Canada. I know you're in the
I
US, but
did.
what was the stat you had for Canada?
It said in Canada, it's just as bad. It says over 40% of women experiencing homelessness report it was because they were fleeing abuse. And every single day, hundreds of women and children are turned away from the shelters.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
looked it up.
something sh
It's just as bad.
when you're looking at those kinds of statistics for two pretty wealthy countries that with a fairly decent social system, we shouldn't be having women having to stay in these relationships because they have children and I mean, I don't know, like how do you just leave an abusive relationship when you've got children and you know that you're going to end up homeless? Like
You know,
how can
that's a
somebody even comprehend that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I'll just even push it further. When somebody, continuously is breaking a restraining order and they keep letting them loose and keep getting letting them out and letting them out, I mean, they can't even get that right. Like the
Yeah.
justice system, is lacking when it comes to domestic violence.
Yes.
So if they can't prosecute properly right from the get-go, they're not thinking about long-term housing for people like us. They just aren't.
Yeah.
They
Well,
just, it's, yeah.
I don't know if you heard about it, but in Kelowna here in British Columbia, I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken. So a woman was abused by her husband. The police picked him up, put him in jail. And I think what was going on, but I could be wrong about this, but I think what was going on was
Mhm.
she was with her, I know she was with her friend, and they were in the process, I think, of getting her belongings, getting her stuff out of wherever they were. And the police, and not the police, the court let him out. And
Mhm.
with hours, she was dead. Within hours.
That's just it's horrible. I hate hearing stories like that. Makes me want to cry.
Yeah. Yeah. Just anyway, yeah, and so, women, they hear these things on the news and they hear these things, read about these things in the paper, and it's just another fear for like, how do you escape from this? And where do you go? And then what's going to happen to me? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty scary for people.
I think long-term housing is a big solution for survivors. It just is. It gives them 2 years to, get back on their feet, get their head on straight, work through some trauma, get a job, learn about finances if they have to. They don't have to worry about their kids, and then eventually, transition out smoothly into a nice apartment. They're already working full time and it's just a nice transition. It's not chaotic and oh, I got restraining, like he's still looking for me, like they're still in the middle of chaos in the
Yes.
violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
that's
Wow.
that's what needs to happen. And until that happens, I just don't see how anything's going to change. And I actually was talking to my detective not long ago, a story like just what you said. I was complaining because my abuser was arrested 4 times for breaking my protective order. And they would pick him up, they'd take him to jail, and then release him 24 hours later. 4 times. 4 times. I'm
Wow.
like, he proved to you the first time he wasn't listening. Then he proved to you the second time. Now he just makes you all look like a bunch of fools because you keep letting him out.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was explaining that to him, and he said, "You're absolutely right." And he says, "I'm going to tell you something. I had a lady not long ago. She escaped a violent situation. She came down to the courthouse. She got the restraining order. And while the police were looking to serve him, he killed her.
Wow. Yeah. That's just horrible. Just horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Well, how did your
Yeah.
experience shape who you are today? Because you are, we haven't talked for a couple of years, and I can see the difference in you. I can see it, listening to you, and you've just got some courage. You've got courage in you now.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so how does that shape you for what you're about to do? Because this
I,
is big. And it
yeah,
but
it
it
is.
and
I'm
it
excited.
needs to be done. Needs to be done.
I agree. I am so excited to be able to build this community and start helping those that need the help. And I think that everything that I've been through and all the struggles, I think it's going to be a an awesome place to come because I just know what survivors are going through because I've been through it
Yeah.
and I just know what they need. I just know what they need.
Yeah.
They don't have
Yeah.
to tell me. I already know.
Yes,
And mine was
exactly.
a severe form of it. I mean, I lived, like mine was like I just had to survive this in another country. I mean, that was
Yes, with no family and
no
yes,
support, no
no
one.
support. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
What does courage
So
mean to you now compared to before everything you went through?
I think that the most important thing is if you're abused, you need to speak out because if you don't, then you're protecting the abuser. So that takes courage to be able to share your story, but I think it's very important if we
Mm-hmm.
want to see change.
Mm-hmm.
So I just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that's why Courage House it's called Courage House, Courage Finds Home. Be
Yeah.
courageous,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
If you're
Wow.
strong enough, and my saying is always, if you're strong enough to stay, you're strong enough to leave.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because
You still have,
it takes a lot of courage to be in that situation and stay in
yes,
that situation.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it
Wow.
makes you stronger. I mean, I'm not going to say, I mean, it wasn't the best times of my life, but it definitely made me a stronger person. And
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely become wiser.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken, a negative and I've definitely changed it into a positive.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm thankful for.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What do you think it is in you that causes you not to be a victim? Because, and this isn't meant as anything negative towards anyone, because we all deal with things so differently. And I can't even imagine, but what is it for other women? But what is it in you?
For me, it was taking accountability.
Ah,
I've got to take accountability for the choices that I made, and I can't blame anyone. I mean, if I've got PTSD, it's my responsibility to go and get help to treat it, not be a victim. No, I got PTSD and feel sorry for me. No, like you've got to go and get the work. You got to do the work and get better.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I don't know, like maybe came across harsh, but
No, no, I understand what you're saying for sure. And I think that yeah, I agree. We need to take, it doesn't matter what situation we're in or have been in or where we came from. We have to take responsibility for our lives. And it might not be our fault where we are,
right.
but but it's only us who can move us forward.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
that's for me. That's
Yes.
why. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that doesn't, as you know, I do a lot of work with generational trauma, and it's the same thing.
Hmm.
Like, we were given a gift that we didn't ask for, but it's not our fault. It's our ancestors' fault, our grandparents, our parents, that we had this generational stuff, but now it's up to us to break that for our children and our families so that our grandchildren and our children can live better lives. So I think that, and I think
Hmm.
actually while I'm saying that, I'm thinking that's one thing about you is you're not just looking so much at yourself. You're like, I don't want others to have to go through what I went through.
Absolutely. I do not want to hear another story of somebody homeless and had nowhere to go when they transition out of a shelter.
Yeah.
I can't, I don't want to hear any more of those stories. So the faster I can get this going, the
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gung ho
So
to,
what do
you
you
know,
what do you need right now? So are you looking, is it just awareness of what you're doing? Is it like are you searching for funding, partnerships? What is it that what is it if
um,
somebody's listening? I don't know. We never know who's listening out there,
well,
right?
first and foremost, I mean, all of the above, but first and
Yeah.
foremost, I think the message that I wanted to portray today was that people don't talk about how hard it is once you leave.
Hmm.
I think the stigma is, oh, well, they just think just leave. It's that easy. It's just go. Like,
Right.
why do you stay? And so I'm kind of hoping that that fills the gap because we don't spend time talking about the after part and the homelessness and all the things that, come with that.
Hmm.
And for Courage House, I am in the US and yes, I'm going to be looking, I need to build partnerships and we need to get funding and all of that good stuff. But, one day at a time,
That's right. That's right.
one day at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, you can't, yeah, these things, as much as we'd love to just snap our fingers and have them up and running, it takes, even for myself, what I've been doing, it takes time to build for sure. Yes.
yes,
But knowing that you have the gumption and the courage and the inspiration to go for the long haul and get it done. That's the,
yeah. And, good positive things have come out of it because my daughter, my youngest, she's 19. She was very unaware of really what transpired during that period of time.
Mhm.
I tried to shield her as best I could, as a mom.
Yeah.
And she's now learning firsthand, kind of what really happened. So it's a learning, we're going through this together.
Hmm.
And, she and I have started our own podcast for Courage House, like,
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
could bring awareness, to Courage
Yes.
House. So,
Yeah.
and sharing those things. So it's been really positive.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so in closing, I have a question I want to
Mhm.
ask you. So, for the women who are listening right now and the one who feels stuck or scared, like there's no way out, what do you want her to know?
There's always a way. There really is. There really is. I know it's hard to see. I don't know what's that expression, the forest through the trees or whatever, but there is a way out. There is. So just reach out. I mean, I'm available if anybody needs to talk or they need help, please call me.
Yeah.
Like I am there. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have Kay's how you can reach her in the show notes. So that'll
Hmm.
be there. But yeah, just yeah. Yeah. And I think talking to someone like you or if there's someone in their community that they can reach out to, it helps to lift them up a bit and give them that bit more courage to know that there is something you don't need to live like this.
That's right. One person is all you need.
Hmm.
No,
Wow.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you so much, Kay, being willing to come on and talk about all of this. And it's you've come full circle, really. And I'm proud and happy for you. And
Oh, thank you.
I know that you're going to get this done. And it's really needed, really needed. Like I
It
didn't, like
is.
I, I had no idea that you could only stay at a shelter for 90 days and then, off you go. And if you don't have anywhere to go, oh well, sorry about that, but
Hmm.
you can't
I mean,
stay.
Julie, you can jump around from shelter to shelter, I suppose. You can go to this one for 90 days and then you go to that one for 90 days. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but you're just jumping around and you're not solving anything. They don't have
no,
long-term solutions. So,
yeah,
but yeah, you're right.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm just excited to get this going and start
yes,
helping people.
yeah, for sure. Well,
Mhm.
thank you, Kay, for doing this. I appreciate it. I'm going to watch your journey. I'm excited to see where all of this leads at the end of the day. And I hope you
Yes.
come back and tell us where
Absolutely.
you've been and what's happening. And so everyone who's listening, We will have some information how you can reach out to Kay in the show notes. So don't hesitate to do that. As you can see, she's very open and very welcoming, and she just wants to help. So don't be shy. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much for being here for another episode of Women Like Me, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.